attention to a topic that I feel is becoming very, um, how should I say, timely. There's a lot of talk in the world today about strength or the need for strength. You have this projection of the need for strength, on the individual level. We all want to be stronger, build strong muscles, have strong character, uh, come across as strong negotiators. But that same is true on a national level for countries, for corporations, for companies, whatever you want to look at. And so it's only befitting, I think, to ask the same questions about the church, the Christian church. Is it desirable? Is it even needed for the church to be strong, to be perceived as strong, as powerful, as an entity that you want to be careful if you wanted to stand against? And this is also appropriate in the world of today, excuse me, where if you look around us, the defining feature that determines success seems to be the survival of the fittest. The strongest survive, they thrive, they conquer, they dominate. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the weak, the feeble, the vulnerable, the poor, who suffer and get exterminated or eliminated, or at least dominated by the strong, right? So in that context, I think it's important to go to the Bible and examine what the book says about strength versus weakness. And when Jesus came the first time, and the Jewish leadership at the time was expecting the Messiah, I want you to think what picture, what image of the Messiah were they expecting? They were expecting the picture depicted, for example, in Genesis 49, where the patriarch Jacob is blessing his children before he died. And when he gets to Judah, he says, the scepter, the rulership would not depart from you. There's always going to be a king, and from you will come the one who will rule the nations. And so their picture of the Messiah was this strong, powerful, kingly figure who's going to rule the nations. And because at that time the Romans happened to be the rulers of the world, they truly and genuinely expected the Messiah to be a figure that will come and take the rulership from the Romans and start this godly kingdom on earth. And you can't blame them for that, right? After all, this prophecy in Genesis 49 that I just quoted was referring to a kingly figure in the person of the Messiah. You can't blame them because the Romans were pretty bad to live under. I mean, they were squeezing everything they could so they could have a nice, comfortable life in Rome and enjoy the games and everything, whereas everybody else would be, working hard to supply the means for them to enjoy life, right? I appreciate the hearts there. Kyle, hello. You can post where you come from if you are part of this live. It'll go for a few minutes. Here at your church, on Sunday mornings when I have time, we try to do a live on a Bible topic. And today the topic is strength the defining feature that Christians and the Christian church in today's world should be characterized by or not? And so we discussed the expectation of the believers at the time of Jesus' first coming to see a Messiah figure that was strong, that was kingly, that was able to take on to destroy the Romans. It is no wonder in that context that when Jesus performed that miracle of feeding the 5,000, a lot of people's eyes popped open and their brain starts to make connection and say, hey, if we take this leader and go against the Romans, guess what? He can feed us for free. We don't have to put together all the logistics needed to overcome these guys. If we have casualties, he can come behind the front line and resurrect everybody. So it was very easy to see how they could become invincible in a very short order. And there will be no resistance, that there will be nothing holding them. And in that context, what does Jesus, the Messiah, do? Instead of saying, yeah, let's go and take on these bad guys, I'm the king, the scepter belongs to me, let's take it away from these Romans. What does he do? He runs away and hides from these people. Why did he do that? The reason he did that, one of the reasons that I argue is really important and relevant for our discussion. Hi, Riley. Good to see you. The reason he did that is because his mission was different. You see, when Pilate questioned Jesus, and the rumor was that he was the king of the Jews, so he confronts them or him with this, and he says, hey, are you the king of the Jews? What does Jesus say? Yeah, I am, and I'm going to, get these 12 legions of angels that he told Peter when he was arrested shortly before this. If I wanted, don't you think I could call the 12 legions of angels and they could vaporize everybody instantly? And yet, he responds to Pilate and he says, hey, are you coming with this idea of the king of the Jews on your own, or did you hear it from others? Is this some sort of a rumor that you picked up from, society and you are questioning me about? And then importantly, he tells Pilate right after that, and he says, my kingdom is not from this world. And I want you to think about that and remember this, because this is a crucial aspect of what the kingdom of God is all about, and how the church then, throughout history, through the end of history and today, should present itself in the world. Oh, bro, that's my thing, says Sarah. Say, okay, hi, William. I love Jesus too. Yes, Will, absolutely. That's what we're here for, right? So let me take you to the next section here in our discussion about, is strength, is worldly power the defining characteristic of what the church is all about? Should we project an image of strength, of power, of taking over the world in a powerful way? Or is the Christian church standing for something else? And you don't have to go deep into the study of the Gospels and the writings of the New Testament, and even the Old Testament, to realize that there is a much deeper reality than worldly, temporal power that the church needs to stand for and seek. Here's the thing. If you go to Luke, in the first chapters of Luke, and read that passage where Jesus, at the beginning of his ministry, he stands up in the synagogue, picks up the scroll from Isaiah, and reads from it. That is the mission statement of Jesus for his people, for his generation, and the defining characteristic of his church. And what is he reading about? He reads that passage about the year of Jubilee and the promise of the coming Messiah, where Isaiah talks about, I have come, your Messiah will come. For what? To heal the sick, to release the captives, to bring a year of freedom, to feed the hungry. He's not here to conquer the Romans, right? Well, in that same line of thought, later on, after Jesus' death and resurrection, Paul writes that God's power is made perfect in weakness. That should set us on a line of thinking that moves us away from seeking worldly, temporal power. He also says in other places that God chose the weak things of this world to put to shame the wise, the strong, the learned of the world, right? And so one of the most striking examples of this contrast between our human expectation for God to come here and set everything in order right away, and us as church, as his representatives, to go out and sort things out and um, physically impose the order of God by force, is a picture of the very throne of God. If you go to Revelation chapter 5, I believe it is, from 5, 6, 7, those three verses there. And even from the beginning, there's this amazing vision of the throne of God that the Apostle John has, where there is this, the God himself on the throne presents this scroll with the writing inside and out, and with 7 seals, and nobody can open the scroll and break the seals to read what's in the scroll. And John is so distressed in that vision that he actually starts crying and weeping and says, there's nobody that can do this. And then one person in the 24 elders present in that scene says, don't get upset, don't cry. And then he presents a very interesting picture of Jesus. He says, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, he is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll through his sacrifice. So is this an image of strength? Of course. I mean, the lion, is the most strong animal considered, at least, in popular culture. So the image of a lion from the tribe of Judah, sending back to that prophecy about the Messiah in Genesis 49, where the Messiah is presented in this image of strength, of power, is what we see here. But wait, read the next verse in Revelation 5 and 6 and 7. John looks, he says, I looked, and I saw what? Did he see the lion ripping and roaring and breaking everything down and destroying? No. What he saw was a lamb. It looked like he was wounded. He had a mortal wound. And yet, through that wound, through that sacrifice of Jesus, through his most weak moment, imagine that, the God of the universe, the most powerful entity you can think about, come to this earth, comes here, takes the form of a feeble human baby in a poor family, gets born in a manger, vulnerable. The king of the time tries to kill all the babies in his village. He has to run to Egypt to survive, right? And then he grows as a carpenter. Even when he goes to the temple to be dedicated as a baby, the priest doesn't even recognize who he is. It's like, next, they were poor, their gift wasn't very impressive. The priest just did his formal thing and sent them out. This is the level of humanity that the most powerful being in the universe, the God, the Creator, decided to embrace. And he comes here on this earth. He takes our form. He takes our infirmities, like Isaiah in chapter 53 is saying. He bears our sins. He dies for us in the most humiliating way. And at the end of that all, he comes back to life, and he's able to take us all from this world into a better one. And so my message for you is, as you think about the mission of the church and your own mission as a Christian in this world, I think it's important to understand and to realize that it is not by force, it is not by coercion, it is not by the power, the physical power, that we achieve the purpose of God. But it is through acknowledging our weakness and need for God's power, that sometimes in our weakest moments, in our most desperate circumstances, that we achieve the greatest victories for God. And so if you found this helpful, and I invite you to post your comments or further this study about the weakness versus the strength of being a Christian. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.